Hi guys, this is Mark from Al's Music Source. Today in this video I'm going to show you how to hook up your pickups to the blend pot of any bass preamp. This video will apply to any of the preamps that we sell in our store, as the blend pots are all the same. Now the first thing you want to get together is your list of materials you will need. The first thing obviously is the soldering iron, and the one that we use is the Weller. It's the Weller WT-CPT. I think we picked it up at Fry's for like $99, but other soldering irons will do good, but we really like this one. Also, you'll need solder. You'll also need your pickups, which we will be installing some jazz bass pickups to the blend pot. We've also got our needle nose pliers, and we've also got our wire cutters. Okay, now that you've got all your materials ready, what we're going to do is we're going to have to prep our soldering station. And what we're going to do is make sure that we have water on our sponge. So I'm going to pour a little water on our sponge, and we're going to take a look at, this is the tip from the last time we did an install. And you can see it's kind of grimy. What we're going to do, we're going to clean that off. So I'm going to take the soldering iron, drag it across the sponge, and what this will do, will take off any residue and clean the tip off. The reason why you want a clean tip is that you will be able to transfer heat a lot faster when you're tinning the wires and also soldering the wires to the terminals. So there's the clean tip. So your soldering iron should look like that. If you do not have a soldering station that has a sponge, you can buy these sponges at any electronics store, or there are brass pads that you can buy. They look like steel wool, but they essentially do the same thing, but you don't use water. But you do want your tip clean before you solder. So on to the next part. Okay, now that we've got our soldering station ready, what we've got to do is prepare the pickup for installation. So here I've got a jazz bass pickup. This is the neck pickup, and basically it's got two wires coming off of it. One is black and one is white. Basically the black is the ground and the white one is the hot. And on most pickups the black is ground, some of them green is ground, but most pickups it's black. Also, if you look closely at this wire, this is called pullback cloth, and sometimes what you can do is actually pull back some of the cloth material here, and it makes it a little bit easier to prep. On some pickups they actually have a vinyl or a plastic covering or insulator for the wire, and with that you'll actually have to use the wire cutters to tin the wires. Okay, so what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take your white wire, and see how it's not prepped. We're going to tin the wire, but we also have to strip it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our wire cutters, these, and if you notice there's two grooves on either side in the middle here, and that's where the wire is going to lay, inside those grooves. So what we're going to do is going to take about 1/8 inch to 1/4 inch, and we're going to lightly crimp the outer jacket, or the outer sleeve. You're kind of want to make a sleeve because you don't want to cut the inner wire on the inside. So basically just cut a little bit, and I can either peel it back, or sometimes what you can do, which I'll show you with this black wire, cut off the end here, is that when you crimp it, sometimes you can pull at the same time. This takes a little practice. But sometimes you can also gently pull the wire and prep it that way. So you can do it either way. Sometimes people get so fast that they can crimp it and pull off the sleeve real fast. So it takes a little practice. So if you're new at this, you might want to do it the other way. So basically right now what we've got are just raw strands of wire, as you can see here. So these raw strands, what we're going to have to do, we're gonna twist those together and then apply some solder to those strands so that it'll stay together when we put it onto the blend pot. So that's what we're gonna do now. I'll twist the strands like that. So now I've got a nice end of my cable now. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take some solder. I've got a little bit here, and What we're going to do now is we're going to actually apply solder to the end here so it becomes solid and not a bunch of strands all individually. So now I've got the wire placed in a clamp, and what that'll do, it'll make it a little easier for you to hold the soldering iron and the solder at the same time. Now we've got the wires, all the strands twisted together. We're ready to tin the wire. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our soldering iron, and you're going to take it, should be clean from when you cleaned it before. We're going to put a little solder, a little ball of solder on the tip here. And what that's going to do, it's going to allow the heat to transfer a lot faster to the wire so that you can melt your solder onto the wire, onto the inner core here. So you don't want to not put solder on there and hold it to the wire because it'll take a long time for it to heat up. So it's good to put a little solder onto the tip, and then what you're going to do is just rest it on there for a second. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flow the solder onto the wire. And there we go, we've got a nice tinned end. So also one thing you want to do is let it air dry. Do not blow on it or anything. It's more critical when you're putting it onto the pot or onto like a circuit board or something to not blow the solder, because you can get a cold solder joint. So just make sure you let it air dry. But now we've got a nice tinned end, and we can actually cut a little bit of that off to make it easier for us to put into the blend pot. Now that we've got our wires prepped from our preamps, we're ready to install them into our blend pot. Now what I've done here is installed the blend pot onto our clamp, and basically I'll go over the blend pot with you. On all of our preamps, our blend pot is the pot that has 3 lugs on the top and 3 lugs on the bottom. So there's basically 2 terminals. You'll notice that the outer terminals all have, or the outer lugs all have wires connected to them. The middles are the ones that you're going to be soldering the pickups to. Now usually the neck pickup will go on the top and the bridge pickup goes on the bottom. If you've got a Sadowski, it's wired backwards, so on a Sadowski it would be bridge, neck, but on most bases it's neck on the top, bridge is on the bottom. Usually I remember bridge B, bottom B, so that's kind of how I remember how to install them. So what we're going to do is install the neck pickup first, and we're going to put the tinned part into this lug. Okay, I've got my tinned wire here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just flow a little bit of solder onto the tip of our soldering iron, just like we did when we tinned it. So just put a little bit on there so I can transfer the heat a little bit easier, so you can kind of see the smoke there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that directly onto the terminal and let the solder melt a little. And you want to do this kind of fast because that solder is going to melt really quickly. So I'm going to put it on there, and you'll notice that the wire will kind of sink straight into the lug. And there you have it. And like I said before, do not blow on it. You don't want to get a cold solder joint in there, so just let it dry naturally. And when you've got a nice shiny soldering point, you know that it's probably contacted pretty good. Later on you can go back and check it with a multimeter to see if you're getting continuity or anything to make sure that the connection's okay. But for now, that looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to take the bridge pickup's hot lead, which is the red one. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put a little bit of I'm going to clean off my sponge, clean off the soldering iron and the sponge. Put a little solder. There you go. You can kind of see it smoking a little. And I'm going to once again touch the solder to the lug, and be pretty quick because it's going to melt. So there you go. You'll kind of see it change color. And what you're going to do is just pop it straight in there, and you'll see the wire sink straight into the terminal. And wait for it to cool. And usually when you see it change colors, that's when it usually cools, and that's how you'll know it's okay. So now I've got 2 good connections here, and basically you've got your neck pickup on the top, bridge pickup on the bottom. Alright, now that we've got the neck pickup and the bridge pickup installed to the blend pot, the next thing we've got to do is install the grounds. So the grounds are the black wires from both pickups, and here I've already taken off some of the outer sleeve, and so you can see some of the strand wire just loose there. What I like to do with the grounds is I like to twist the ground wires together. So I've got these two inner cores here. What I'm going to do, I'm going to twist these together, and the reason why I'm going to do that is so that I only have one solder point to solder to. And right now in the clamp I've got the volume pot, and as you can see here, there's already a ground point here on the bottom of the volume pot. Usually it's best on most preamps is to ground your pickups to the same spot that there are grounds already on like in this case the volume pot. The reason for that is that you don't have the possibility of having a ground loop. Sometimes you'll hear that and it'll be a little bit of a buzz, and so you want to make sure that all your grounds go to one central place, because then from there basically your ground is also going to hook up to the input jack as well, and that will go to your guitar. And so basically what I've done is twisted these together, and so the one thing I need to do is tin them. So I'll kind of put them in the clamp here, get the iron out, and we'll put a little ball on the tip of the soldering iron, a little ball of solder on there so you can transfer the heat. Get the wires here. So there's the wires. I'm going to tin that. Alright, so I've got nicely tinned wire here. Just going to cut a little bit of this off. And now what I'm going to do is put a little solder onto the bottom of the volume pot just to get it started. And then I'm going to hook up the grounds from the pickups. And let it dry, let air dry, don't blow on it. And there we go. So now the install is complete and you're ready to install the jack next and also figure out where you're going to put the battery. So if you have any questions, you can email me. It's owlsmusicsupport@gmail.com if you have any questions on install, but this should pretty much cover it. And like I said, this is pretty much for any of the preamps that we sell in our store. Thanks for watching.